come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Melanjeptic1992 and Steve Baxi.
Yes.
Hello everybody.
He has a bat symbol for a logo.
I do,
awesome.
Thank you, superhero enthusiast.
Mm-hmm.
That man is like... I could lick eggnog off that man's glorious abs for thanking him to do it. He does such wonderful things for free.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
See, I think like maybe a good way to thank him is to not cast him in your sexual fantasies.
But I can't. But that's the ultimate. That's like the ultimate. You know, that's how you know you've truly become my friend. Once I start, fantasizing about you sexually.
I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, don't worry, just say.
But someone will. Actually, one of my favorites lines was, I wouldn't fuck her with a 10-foot pole because I'm reasonably sure somebody already has.
Or I wouldn't fuck her with a 10-foot pole because I bet the AIDS is so strong it'll just leap from the stick onto me.
See, no, it goes on way too long and it's not clever.
And then we're the aristocrats. There we go. I saved the joke.
No, you didn't save the joke. The joke is dead, like your parents that I just killed.
Oh,
good news. You can now be Batman.
Oh, thank you.
You can be Batman.
But are you rich?
Well, Batman doesn't have to be rich.
Not according to Darren Aronofsky, no.
Darren Aronofsky?
Anyway,
what do you mean?
He was going to do a Batman movie where Batman was just a crazy homeless person.
I could do that.
That makes
I could
sense.
dig it.
Yeah, and Alfred was a black mechanic, and it was really weird and kind of meta.
Okay, anyway, let's get into the video. So, who wants to tell everyone what we're talking about? Steve, what are we talking about?
If I remember right from our personal messages, we are talking about fictional politics, representation of politics in fiction, and just altogether how you coordinate politics through fictional characters, fictional groups, and basically fictional scenarios, and how they could relate to real-life situations.
Thank you for going with all of that from me literally telling you what the title of the video is. All I did was tell Steve we're going to be talking about fictional politics, and he just came up with all of that on his own.
Well,
thank you, Steve.
Because there's so much ground to cover with that, so I'm like, why don't I just touch on everything?
I mean, really, it's a good topic, isn't it? And it's one of those things where a lot of people complain about it, but I think it's one of the most interesting things you can do in your fiction is create a very engaging political intrigue within your fiction writing, whether that be in movies, books, television, and
Well, that's just further fleshing out the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a very particular kind of thing because it has to be even more consistent than most things in world building have to be.
What's fascinating about that, though, is some of the best works analyzing politics in history are written as fictional narratives, or at least written in the structure of narrative as if it's a fictional story.
Well, in that way, it's almost like a dystopian tale, isn't it? Because, all dystopian tales are written, from the perspective of that time that, that's what's going on. Alan Moore, was it the man who wrote 1984?
Oh, George Orwell.
That's the one. I made an Asian teacher feel awkward during a class about him.
Go on.
Basically, we were watching like this documentary about like the Britons selling opium to the Chinese or something like that, and I turned around and I looked at him with a smile on my face, and then I realized, oh shit, that's right, the guy's vaguely Asian. I think, and he just looked at me with disgust. I'm like, oh shit, like I didn't mean like that. I didn't know what I mean.
Okay, this story has completely derailed. No, but like the reason I chose this topic is because Alex and I were doing a video talking about the Clone Wars series, and one of my biggest points is I love the way Palpatine was portrayed in that, for the most part, and I really enjoyed the fictional politics in the Star Wars prequels in general is, I think, one of the best things about those movies.
That is such a fucking weird thing to say, because the fictional politics in the Star Wars prequels was the thing that everyone hated, but apparently an animated series can make that stuff work, which is awesome.
See, that's
well, like,
weird,
I think it's,
because I don't completely agree with that.
I think that they're in, let me just throw this out. I think that it's way too much of the first movie, but in the second and third movie, I think it's handled a lot better.
Well, see, my problem with that has always been, like, politics is more than just trade and border disputes.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone involved in the prequels thinks politics is.
Mm-hmm.
No,
fair enough.
No,
I just like the scheming of Palpatine to get himself into power is what I thought was
everyone
cool.
likes
that's good at Clone Wars series.
Everyone likes a scheming man in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
and yes, Clone Wars series. See, yeah, there was the trade and the border dispute, but there was a lot else. There was a lot more to it. There was like there was a vote. There was a whole story arc that dealt with a vote about whether or not to order more clones or something like that. And, you know, they did little stuff like that every so often, but I thought they handled the politics rather well without it getting too boring. Which is the problem with the first movie, is, like, the politics are at least half an hour to 40 minutes of the first movie.
And nothing happens in those scenes.
Yeah, it's just people arguing, and, like, it's too real, man. It's too real.
No, it's funny because it's like, it's political arguing, but with epic music in the background, like, dun 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 dun, we got a border dispute, ba ba ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, politics.
You're gonna have a lot of those with CGI all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Where does your thing end and where does mine start?
Mm-hmm. No, I really liked that aspect of it, but I will say, you know, unequivocally that it's way too much of the first movie. I thought it reached a really good balance by the second and third film.
You know what it should have needed? There's a scene in an Ali G movie where Ali G pumps pot during some sort of UN meeting. And at first everyone's yelling at each other, but then it just devolves into a glorious intercontinental orgy of leaders. And I'm like, yes. And the South Korean Prime Minister pops a ping pong ball out of her hoo-hoo. And it's funny because that happens sometimes, and I don't know. I'm high, shut up!
No one's saying anything.
Oh, good.
No, but, like, this idea did generate out of the Star Wars thing, and, like, there are a lot of shows that I watch that just take fictional politics, and some of them are more exaggerated, where they build a whole world and political system, like Game of Thrones, and some of them are more just playing with some of the contingency plans, I guess you'd call them, in existing governments. West Wing did that a lot, like, alright, what would it be like if the president relinquished his power temporarily and there was no vice president at the time? And that's the end of Season 4 and beginning of Season 5.
You know, that's weird.
And it's fascinating.
It is, you know, it's weird, like, you know when you've fully matured, when you find political dramas interesting. Because as a kid, you're like, oh, politics. But now we're like young, you know, hip, we're part of the young intelligent, which is awesome.
Well, I think more than that, though, because politics isn't just governmental things. Like, politics can be just about structure and organization of leadership. Like Harold Laswell's definition of politics is who gets what, when, and how. And you can relate that to almost any scenario. It doesn't just have to be governmental. So, like, when you're sitting there watching The Sopranos, or as a kid, you could be sitting there watching, like, Batman the Animated Series, Rupert Thorne, that there's still politics that go into that.
Yeah, definitely. And, like, I've been reading the Wonder Woman comic, and, spoilers, the Firstborn struck a deal with Poseidon to, basically get one over on, Hades. and he was able to defeat Hades without having to fight an army because of a deal that he struck with Poseidon that was really interesting.
Oh.
So you get that, like, mob family thing. I think for politics you need to have at least a large group. I think you need to have at least 20 to 30 people to have a political system of any kind, though. I don't think you can have really small politics.
You know, it's weird. Politics kind of also fall into that whole stereotype of nerds like to organize shit. You know, for nerds it's all like kind of trivial shit like comic book characters and strength stats and science fiction and whatever. You'd think there'd be more nerdy politicians who aren't psychopaths. But, you know, you're like, hey, I'm gonna be like super politician, but no, everyone wants to be fucking Dr. Doom after a while.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Doom's an interesting politician.
He's a badass. He's like, I'm just gonna like fucking blow up a building, and like diplomatic immunity, bitches. You know,
that's a little bit excessive, isn't it?
That is kind of that's really fucking excessive, actually.
Diplomatic immunity is kind of a dumb law.
Yeah,
when you think about it, it's like, I think it was meant to just serve as, all right, well, we won't give these people like traffic tickets or anything. But then, like, apparently someone just kills a guy, and it's okay. And you're like, what?
So you mind if I throw out a question for all of us to answer while we're on this topic?
Sure thing. Sure.
Do any of you guys have like a favorite depiction of politics in any kind of medium, like any kind of art, movie, TV show you watched where the politics of it really got you?
Definitely Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones as well, but it's funny that like Game of Thrones is essentially House of Cards, but with swords and a dragon or two thrown in.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of badass, though. I mean, you know, it's just a matter of time before.
The thing about Game of Thrones is it is beat for beat just a political drama set in a fantastic world.
Totally.
So the way it works is, and I think Deadpoolzilla said this, and it is a really great point. The dragons are nuclear bombs. That's all you have to think of it as.
Totally. But
and that's why it's such an oh shit thing that she has dragons.
Dude. House of Cards is like a future sequel to Game of Thrones. Boom.
No.
I just saw
No, because I want Kevin Spacey to become a Sith Lord. I want Frank Underwood to.
Dude, it's part of Star Wars as well. Boom. Look! I'm raising the roof, man. I just brought 3 fandoms together through the power of high fan fiction, motherfuckers. Oh yeah.
Okay, how about no?
He always shoots me down whenever I do something that I'm happy with. It's so wonderful.
Always.
How about you, Steve?
Immediately what jumps to mind is 3 Days of the Condor, which is a political thriller from about, late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in that range. Had Robert Redford in it. And the reason I pick that is because it draws a very fine line between politicians and bureaucrats. And who's to blame for certain executions and certain failures, and what the problem is of having a big system. Because it doesn't have a lot of characters, but it addresses a lot of broad sweeping issues with how things work. Because the U.S. is built on that Madisonian model, where it's slow, but it's slow on purpose. And sure, that solves some corruption issues, but it means nothing gets done as fast as it should. And it really analyzes that, which is... It sounds boring, but I gotta say it's one of the most fascinating political thrillers I've ever seen, because most of it is just 2 people sitting in a room talking.
Yeah?
Yeah, like...
So let me ask this, could it be a play?
I don't think it could be a play. It has too many sets for that, but I could totally see you cutting it and turning it into a play.
You know, it's weird, that whole, little sentence of, like, it's so interesting, it's like 2 guys sitting in a room talking. That either can come out really bad and pretentious, or just, like, really well if it's really well written.
It's like
really
a My Dinner with Andre kind of situation.
Yeah,
Less is more, sometimes.
Yeah, and, like, I know you mentioned something about who gets to blame whenever shit goes wrong. Imagine being that guy, but in a fucking superhero universe. I mean, the collateral damage alone, I mean, just like what if, like, a brick falling from a building that Superman smashes into, like, lands on some guy's fucking head and kills a dude? Like, does somebody sue Superman or the guy who threw him into the building?
That's why Superman has a secret identity. Fucking lawsuits, dude. You know how fucked Batman would be if they found out he was Bruce Wayne?
He's rich, you know. He can just fight. Like...
No, but that's the thing, is, like, he would not be rich for long. You've seen Batman Begins? Fucking drove on the roof of a church. You know how expensive shingle work is?
You know, but, like, dude, it's in one of your stories, he's so fucking... Not in your stories, but in, like, one of Neil Gaiman's stories. I think it's the Night of the... Like, it's when Batman dies and everyone fucking goes there.
Yeah, whatever happened to Cape
Crusader. Whatever happened to the Cape Crusader. I mean, like, he's so fucking rich. Like, he could literally pay the police to waste their fucking time on him and fucking call him up to the head of the roof building every fucking time his butler sends out one of his fucking acting buddies to play around as the villain. I mean, the police, like, he's so rich he can literally troll the police and say, like, I want to play superhero now, but we got crimes to fucking, you know, bust. I want to play superhero now. Fine. Let's turn on the giant light. Commissioner, you know, talk to fucking, you know, Bruce Wayne. He'll fucking come here in a minute. Turn around. All right. Like, he's fucking climbing up the fire escape. I can hear his fucking cape smashing against the wall. Like just pretend you don't hear him.
You know how fucking obvious, or how fucking stupid Batman must look when he's doing his sneak away thing? Like, if you ever catch him in the middle of it, he just looks fucking crazy.
Oh, it's a hilarious Common Humor video about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was from.
Yeah.
No, but, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about, not just Batman or Superman or anything, but let's talk about, like, Justice League politics, because... Yeah, I think Avengers did it, but since Avengers has always kind of been associated with S.H.I.E.L.D., it's been a little, you know...
I'm not government sure backed, you know, it's like, oh, yeah.
Like, there's never been a Cadmus for the Avengers that jumps to mind for me.
Yeah.
You know? Cadmus is this government-funded thing that's meant to, you know, find ways to take down the Justice League.
Well, I mean, the Ultimates, right? Like, Ultimates 2 is every country in the world comes up with an agency to defeat the Ultimates because it's essentially a Cadmus situation. What happens if the Avengers go bad? Or in that universe, the Ultimates.
Yeah, but what if America
I
has
didn't know that. I'm not a big Marvel guy, so, you know.
It's so weird. We don't get a lot of big Marvel guys. Most of the guys we have are, like, DC, you know, boys. Well, we need a few, you know, more Marvel zombies over... we need some Marvel zombies up in this bitch!
Well, if you talked to me, like, 3-4 years ago, I would have been a DC guy all the way, but now I'm a Marvel guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You know, before we move on, apparently...
Well, no, I'm trying to go back to this Cadmus thing, and we're not getting anywhere.
Okay.
Because, no Marvel guys. Anyway.
No, it's just DC is planning a thing called the Band-Aid Project, quote-unquote. It's going to be a Final Crisis type of situation, and they're going to see if people want the old 52 back. Or it's yeah.
You mean like a Crisis Infinite Earth kind of thing?
Yeah, something like that. It's like
I would kill for the old 52 back.
You know, I bet they're just gonna troll us and say, "Hey, you're cool, New 52. We're happy to die." You know.
In any case, I like the idea of Cadmus. That's one of the things about fictional politics I find really interesting. When you have a world that's supposed to be at least somewhat like ours, and then you're introducing these, you know, fantastic things like people that can fly and shoot lasers out of their fucking eyeballs. Which, side note, that is such a bad guy power. It's weird that Superman has it. Continuing on, I find it really interesting that they, you know, kind of look at that situation and go, okay, now how would we actually react to this? Because we're not going to every single person is not going to be out in the street smiling and pointing up at the sky. No, people are going to be afraid. And how would that, you know, what is the logical end of that, something like that happening?
Yeah, I suppose
so. Of course,
so.
You're going to have fucking... the government's going to have some kind of contingency plan for that person, aren't they?
Totally, but you know it's weird? Whenever we do have that type of organization, especially in the, you know, Justice League animated series, Cadmus was never shown doing anything fucking positive ever. They're like, we're just gonna create a giant fucking monster. Why? Because you might go bad. You released it into the fucking public stratosphere. on American soil just to draw us out. What the fuck is wrong with you?
And one of the episodes that highlights that so well is the one where it's just the non-powered heroes and a general turns himself into a monster. And he doesn't see the irony or the hypocrisy in that.
Yeah, dude.
It's brilliant.
Dude, the American government, like this fucking Cadmus place, literally sends an undercover agent into the giant fucking gun that they're so worried about that will, fire on American soil, and they fucking make it fire on American soil to prove a point? Question mark?
Cadmus doesn't do that. Lex Luthor does.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is Cadmus was backed by Lex Luthor.
But they weren't seeing eye to eye until the very end, and Lex reveals his plan, and that's when Amanda Waller gets on Batman and the Justice League side. And I say Batman because Batman is the only one who communicates with Cadmus.
Oh, fucking Batman.
No, I like the idea of Cadmus, though, and, it's changes how well it's executed, certainly, but it's still a really fascinating idea.
Oh, definitely. Go ahead.
Well, part of the key to getting politics like that right is when you mean realism, you don't mean making all your characters jerks because that's what real people are. You mean, how does a cynical world react to a positive icon? Simply by virtue of he's more powerful than us. It's that really simple mindset of nuclear deterrence, and how well does that really work?
Yeah.
And it seriously is just I got into this a couple weeks back. I remember back when Man of Steel was first announced, I was on a forum, and someone, if someone has a cell phone, please move it away from their mic. I was on a forum when Man of Steel was first announced, and this person was like, "Oh man, Nolan's gonna be involved in a Superman movie. Is he gonna take away all his powers or something?" No, that's not what realism is. Making Batman realistic is the idea of giving reasons for why he does things he does, and making the technology at least somewhat believable for a person of unlimited means to get a hold of. Whereas making Superman realistic means you take him straight off the page about what his power set is, you put him into our world as best as you can represent it, which, I think Man of Steel did okay. And then you logically think about how people would react to that.
Yeah.
You gotta make it as shocking as if it were to actually happen.
And part of the problem with Man of Steel is they don't follow through with that at all.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
I was actually waiting for a point to bring this up, but I think this is the perfect one. But Captain America Winter Soldier, where you're basically making Captain America Superman, where he's completely steadfast in his values. And the whole thing is about the politics of you're holding a gun to everyone's head and calling it freedom. And so that's a really realistic opportunity, right? Aliens invade, what do? You give a government agency as much money as it needs to limit freedom and promote defense, but what are you really defending? And Captain America comes straight off the page and says, that's not how we do things. Regardless of the consequences, there's freedom that you have to protect. And even if you have to do things you don't like, there's certain sacrifices you have to make in order to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the things I really loved about Captain America, too. I'd always enjoyed the Avengers films. Not gonna say I didn't, but I think Captain America 2 is the first Marvel movie that's actually about something.
I don't agree with that.
There's a little bit in Iron Man, but really, Captain America 2 is the first movie where it's actually got, I think, more of a metaphorical point. Is someone clicking their mouse?
No.
I keep hearing it, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's me, sorry.
Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is entirely about the idea of anonymity and how powerful we feel when no one's really looking at us and what we can do to the world through that. Though it's basically kind of critiquing on the whole Bush administration with creating a war, and it's talking a lot about anonymous threats and stuff like that.
Fair enough. I've only seen Iron Man 3 one time, and I do feel like I need to rewatch it. And I'm not trying to say that Captain America 2 is the only one, but to me at least it was.
The closest thing to
didn't get that.
the closest thing to World, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get I didn't get the commentary from any of the other films, and I did love the political intrigue of Captain America, where S.H.I.E.L.D. had been infiltrated and become what it was trying to fight, which was brilliant.
Yeah. Fucking, like, it was also a weird statement of saying, like, yeah, the American, it can be taken one thing, like, that there's, a serious corruption, like in America, but, like, I bet, like, why Republicans liked it so much, because like, fucking Nazis invaded America, Obama, like...
I went to a gun and knife show at the local Coliseum, buy some knives years back, and there was a picture that you could buy. It was a drawing of Obama, and Hitler was standing behind him, like, and he had his hands on his shoulders, and like Obama was his son, and I'm just like, okay, you can hate Obama as much as you want, whatever, I don't care, but if you're gonna, parody him or make fun of him or whatever, just make sense. Like, it was that one, and then the nerdy one I always go to was, I saw a picture of Obama, and it had his face changed to look like the Joker, and then it said socialism underneath it, and just none of that made sense. And that bothered the hell out of me.
Is anarchy socialism, apparently?
No,
Apparently.
It's just one of those weird things.
Oh, stupid people, you are so funny.
Yeah, but, like, no, don't get me wrong, I loved... Captain America 2 is by far my favorite Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was underneath Incredible Hulk for a little bit, but I had to put it back up there because it's just too good.
People been hating on the... Yeah. People been fucking hating on the Incredible Hulk for some reason. Why is that?
No, I really enjoy it. For a while, it was my favorite, and now Cap 2 is...
I guess before we get away from that, just a really quick random point about The Incredible Hulk. I think it's a really good movie in the most generic way possible, so that's why it's a little bit lower on my list. Like, it does everything as if it's checking through a list. So
it's better than Hulk, so that's all that matters.
Fair enough.
Everyone keeps saying, it's like the worst like Hulk movie ever. It's like a bad Hulk movie. You got giant monsters punching each other in the face repeatedly, and Hulk chokes a motherfucker out with a chain, son. What else do you want?
Well, I mean, Hulk isn't Pacific Rim.
I liked Pacific Rim.
No, I did too. I'm just saying, like, Pacific Rim is giant robots fighting giant monsters. Hulk is more than that.
Yeah, I agree.
I suppose.
No, but like, to kind of connect this back, I think there's a little bit, not in and of Incredible Hulk itself, but kind of the larger Marvel universe. There's a bit of the, I don't know if you'd call it politics, but consequences, I guess, because the whole reason that the Abomination exists is because they were giving Blonsky their attempts to recreate the super soldier serum from Cap, which I thought was a really interesting, way to look at it. What? No, I'm the only one there.
No, I see what you're saying with that. It's all kind of a chain reaction kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. That's a better way of putting it.
You know what I find weird about the kind of reactionary thing about the DC and the Marvel movies? See, the action in the Marvel movies, it's a little bit more, not small scale exactly, but it's a little bit more traditional action movie, like, wow, a guy's gonna have a car chase and whatever. That's awesome, and they don't blow their load all in one go, is what I'm saying. While the DC movies are like fucking cities getting leveled to the ground and, terrorist threats and moral dilemmas and whatever. It seems like there's a lot more, serious real world consequences in DC movies, while in the Marvel movies it's more like, oh, fun superhero consequences, ho ho ho.
See, I don't even kind of agree with that, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, because DC, at least in the movies, all of that's really superficial. Like, I mean, you've got the Dark Knight trilogy, but that has extremely small-scale action, except Rises, which has one big action scene, and nothing's really at stake in that scene.
Well, consequences, I mean,
Well, I mean, like, DC, like you mentioned, like, moral dilemmas and stuff, and I mean, I think DC, counting all their movies, they're the ones that have, like, really superficial action scenes, and Marvel's has been really, really kind of ramping it up. Like, every action scene in The Winter Soldier, every action scene in Iron Man 3, they were all really natural. They all meant something, and they were all constantly up in.
Except the fucking house blowing up. I still think that's really dumb.
Well, no, I mean that one had that's the point. Like that, the point of that was that Killian wanted to get rid of Stark, and it didn't work. And part of the reason.
No, I think it's really stupid that he gave out his address and decided not to put any security measures.
I mean, he's got PTSD. Is the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's rooting for a fight.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he, have some armor ready to go?
I mean, he did. He had his Mark 42.
No, that was last minute effort.
No. Like when his doorbell rang after he gave out his address, he was wearing the Mark 42 to answer the door.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Shit, I gotta watch it again. See, I can't talk about Iron Man 3 because I've only seen it the one time. So, no, but I kind of agree with Milan, but I see where you're coming from on the scale of the consequences of the action. Because one of the great things Rises did was the villain from the first movie didn't just go away. That's such a trope of superhero films kind of thing, where you're supposed to have, and Cap did this as well, you're supposed to have this organization that's ultra powerful and is at this point where it's going to take over the world if just they get done with this one little thing, and then the hero defeats the main bad guy, and suddenly the whole organization is just disbanded. And I think that's one of the things that was really interesting and that they touched upon in Rises and as well in Winter Soldier.
Definitely. Yeah, at Phase 3, Marvel movies are they're really good. I love Captain America too. I only seen it the once, but I'm like, yes, I would let you do things to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Always gotta make it sexual, motherfucker. I always gotta make it's like I'm contractually obligated. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Anyway, alright, so is there anything else superhero we wanted to bring up, or you guys feel like moving along?
I like Collateral, I want to talk a little bit more about Collateral Damage, because, of course you got the whole secret identity thing, but, what does the city do? I mean, when Superman jumps off into the air, he leaves a fucking pothole, the sun, literally, it's a gigantic, is it an asset, because then, the working population there has a lot of fucking job opportunities, you can always find work in Metropolis.
I've said for a while that the worst thing ever, the worst business you could possibly be in is insurance in a superhero universe, because, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's health insurance, building insurance, anything. You're fucked. Car insurance, they use them as boxing gloves in Incredible Hulk. You're fucked.
There's a great comic where Galactus is attacking, and a guy in a building says, "Shouldn't we be running?" And he says, "No, we've got insurance."
You know what I also think that it's interesting? People get, it's a thing that really bothered me during the whole Avengers versus X-Men thing. See, most of the X-Men get possessed by the fucking Phoenix Force, and they slowly go evil over time, as Jean Grey slowly went evil over time. And it's obvious that they're not in control of their own minds, or they're under the influence of a crazy cosmic evil super being or whatever. And Scott kills, the Professor, but he's still under the influence of this fucking evil Phoenix thing that made Jean literally annihilate an entire planet of sentient beings. And everyone,
what does this have to do with politics or insurance?
Law. Because, everyone forgives Jean because she's a hot red-headed chick, and Wolverine, yeah, okay, you killed literally an entire civilization, but you're letting me bang you, so I'll forgive you for that. And at least they weren't human. But Scott kills the Professor while still under the control of that same fucking force that made a girl kill an entire civilization, and everyone goes oh my god, Scott is a supervillain now. He's under the control of a giant super cosmic devil thingamabob.
Well, I mean, the thing with the Phoenix Force you gotta remember is that it's bringing feelings to the surface. So what Scott did is just an exaggeration of what he really thinks. And the current X-Men stuff, you can see how he went from being Xavier's top student to being in the school of Magneto.
Mm-hmm. And actually, here's a good place to
Hold
jump
on.
on.
Like, so Jean Grey always wanted to kill, like, annihilate, and then was she a genocidal maniac underneath that cute?
Okay, all right.
Stupid
joke aside. Stupid joke aside. No, this brings a good place to, I think, wrap up on the superhero thing with the most recent of these films that's really looked at the politics and the long-term consequences of a superhero universe. Fucking X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I love all the political stuff in that. You know, just everything with Nixon, and even in First Class, they had a lot of this, like, alternate history with these major events, and they just threw mutants in it, and that's a really fascinating way to approach things.
Yeah, what's interesting, at least about the new trilogy, is that or I hope it's more than a trilogy, but they're taking communism and turning it into anti-mutant ideas. So instead of going into, like, the simple place of just doing, like, segregation, they're expanding it into, like, two different ideologies, right? Like, they're doing, like, Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King kind of stuff with the mutants. But now
that factor's always been there, hasn't it?
Well, I mean, it has always been there, but it's always kind of been like a segregation thing. But now it's like, no, it's more of that than that. It's like a political thing. Like, you believe this, I believe this, but this is how the world should run. It's less about the people and more about the ideas that they represent.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a... Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny, like, the Fox X-Men stuff really seems to be a blending, like, at least the modern X films seem to be, like the modern X Days of Future Past film really seems more like a mix of both the DC kind of real-world political seriousness and a bit of like, some of the colorful Marvel charm, which, you know, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
Milan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why do you see Marvel as colorful and DC as realistic? Because, like, traditionally, it's always been the opposite.
I know. I'm not talking about.
I think we're just talking film because,
like, even in film though, like, I don't see what you mean, really.
Well, I guess it's just mostly about the color palette, because with the Marvel movies, they're a little bit more colorful and bouncy and a little bit more lighthearted. Like, but like, I'm going mostly with the Man of Steel and the Dark Knight trilogy. You know, the color palette's always a little bit more desaturated. Everyone's a little bit more sadder. It's a bit more quote unquote real world. It's not like it's not like one is better than the other. It's just kind of a stylistic thing that I'm noticing.
Okay, because I'm thinking of things like Christopher Reeve's Superman and 1989 Batman.
No, I think when we're talking,
no.
I think when Milan says DC movies, he is really talking about just the modern successes.
Successes, yeah.
I think one of the weird things about Green Lantern is it almost fits in as like a bad Marvel movie. Just as the tone that they go with, it doesn't feel like the other DC movies that were being made. It feels like it was trying to capitalize on kind of that Iron Man thing.
Yeah.
But
why Iron Man?
No,
I didn't see any Iron Man in there.
Well, no, just that jokey superhero kind of thing.
It did have like a waterboarding scene and a weird terrorist torture scene as well. So Iron Man wasn't all happy-go-lucky, you know.
I'm not saying it was, but I'm saying it was kind of trying to capitalize on elements of that thing. Anyway. No, but, like, I was trying to go somewhere with this X-Men point. Now it's completely gone.
Sorry.
No, one of the things I really found fascinating about what they've been doing with the X-Men films, besides their, you know, juggling of continuities, and all these really weird issues that don't make any sense anymore. Alright, side note. So, like, when First Class came out, everyone was talking about how good it was. I'm like, yeah, it's a good movie, but it's a fucking reboot. Don't tell me it's not. And, like, I think it was Cap that actually made the point where it was like, all it is it's a sequel to the first, or it's a prequel to the first two movies, and all you have to do is ignore X3 and X-Men Origins, and it's perfectly fine that way. Alright, fine, fair enough. Then Wolverine comes out, and you cannot say X3 is not in the continuity anymore. It's all just craziness.
Yeah, like, now it's not. Like, at the end of, like, spoiler warning, like, at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, they kind of erase, literally, they fucking retcon Wolverine, the Wolverine movie and X3 out of continuity. It's, ladies and gentlemen, the first comic book style continuity retcon in cinema.
Yeah, it's impressive that they've had to do that in a film.
That that's the first, not even the fucking, neither the DC or the Marvel movies managed to do that yet.
You should be very proud.
Yeah.
No, but I just really like what they've done with the political intrigue of the X-Men and making them this, huge force that's changing the political landscape of history. Which is, that would be what happens. I mean, if there's a guy that can shoot fire out of his fucking hands, that's gonna change some shit long term. Okay. No, but I think we've fairly well covered a lot of the superhero stuff. And I want to talk more about Game of Thrones, if you guys are cool with that.
Didn't we already make a whole video about that whole thingamabob?
We did a video on season 1, but we didn't really talk about the politics of the show in general, and then, I wanted to talk about that. Because that's also part of what made me want to make this video. So, if that's okay with you, Milan. If I have your fucking approval, you goddamn ass clown.
What the fuck, dude? I literally complain about one thing. You always question me, but whenever I dare to question you, you slap
because
me.
Because I am a god, Milan. I am a god.
Yes.
And you are an ant.
Oh, say that again. Say that again. I'm a bad boy. That's right. Your insults cost me sexual pleasure, biatch. Word.
Whatever you have to tell yourself.
Okay. I lie to myself. That's not true. I just say it. I just say that to make the pain hurt less in my soul.
Anyway, Steve, I think I've read. It's such a weird world we live in, where I get to have conversations with the people that I follow online. So these weird things happen where I go, I remember you said this on Twitter, and now I want you to justify that opinion as we discuss things on recording. So,
okay, sure.
Steve,
you can literally bitch him out in person. You can literally bitch him out there. Yeah.
So, Steve, I saw that you don't like Game of Thrones. Can I ask why?
It's not that I don't like Game of Thrones. It's everyone keeps telling me to watch Game of Thrones, but I'm not going to watch it if you demand I watch it.
Fair enough. I completely understand that viewpoint. And I think it's really good for me that I watched it just thinking it was something that my dad liked, and I didn't hear about it at all beforehand, and I watched, first season, and that was very helpful.
See, I know it's probably great, but when people start talking about it's better than The Sopranos, and it's a totally different thing, and people you have to watch it, they have to realize a recommendation and a demand are two different things. And that's going to inform what a person thinks about it when they watch it.
I completely agree, and that's what puts me off of a lot of different things. Is I hear too much good about it, and I'm just fuck it. I still haven't seen Skyfall because I'm fuck it, I'm not going to watch it now. It's just everyone's told me it's the greatest James Bond film ever. I'm fuck it, I'm not going to watch it.
Skyfall sucks so much donkey dick. I hate it. Ugh. But
God, I'm not Skyfall. I can't even lie. That movie's great.
You're right. That movie's.
I'm not a hipster. I'm not a hipster.
I'm kidding. I love Skyfall. It's amazing. It's it's
No, and that's the thing is I'm sure it's a good movie, but I'm just I can't watch it because everyone's told me it's amazing, and I'm I'm gonna watch it, and I'm not gonna like it as much as everyone, and then instead of being the guy that hasn't watched Skyfall, I'm gonna be the guy that didn't enjoy Skyfall.
Yeah, and it won't be your fault because everyone's been demanding to see it, and that's just not how it should work.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole mentality really kind of weirds me out. It's I'm gonna deny myself something great because out of spite. It's
it's just out of spite. It just feels like you've seen it because everyone keeps saying you should see it.
Yeah, it's just everyone keeps demanding you watch it, and you're just well, fuck, dude, now I don't want to because you've built it up too much in my head.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
nobody demands I do something enjoyment. Nobody demands I do something enjoyful. For myself. Everyone's you guys watch this awesome movie. For me, it's Milan, go suck a penis or something. I don't know. I don't want to look.
Milan, you shut up. Just shut up.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it funny. See,
you're not. And none of it's working tonight. None of it's sticking.
I'm sorry. See, Ian is so much better at making fun of me than I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Anyway,
it's great.
No, but I wanted to talk about Game of Thrones. So I was just curious because I saw you tweet about that, and I was wondering if you're the one person that can tell me something bad about that show.
I mean, like, I just don't care about it, so.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. I understand that mentality 100%, obviously. But for me, what I really like about Game of Thrones is, honestly, it's fucking plagiarism. It's a weird thing to say. It's fucking plagiarism, and he just threw in some dragons and snow zombies. Because all it is beat for beat the War of the Roses.
Oh yeah.
Fucking Tyrion's King Richard. It's just it's all the same thing, and I'm like, I don't care. It's still amazing, but it's plagiarism. I feel like I should acknowledge that, because all it did is take real world politics, add some fantasy elements, and then change some names and just add some random characters here.
Well, I mean,
You
can I
know-
ask something about that?
Go ahead.
Are you sure that's plagiarism, or if that's just intertextuality?
I'm joking, obviously, but
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the Aragon thing where people say Aragon's a ripoff of Lord of the Rings, and it sort of is, but a lot of that's just badly placed influence.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that stuff is, most of Aragon is just cliche.
Yeah, well, no, the War of the Roses is just literal, like the name for the whole thing between the Tudors, and
What a fucking queer ass name, I mean, right? And like such a bloody.
yeah, it really does sound. It does sound really lame for something that is like as epic as that shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's epic war, but like with swords and shit, thus making it cool.
Well, like I think the justification behind the name War of the Roses, which again, that's not a fictional thing. This is all just historical fact. The justification behind War of the Roses is you think of roses as these like delicate, perfect things, and that's the image that a lot of people had about royalty at the time. So that's kind of the idea behind it.
Really?
In any case, yeah, but like what I like about Game of Thrones is, like I said, it is just a lot of it is just reinterpreting history and creating this fictional world and these different kind of threats, like looming threats in the distance. But, that the thing about Game of Thrones is it's not the fucking snow zombies that are interesting. Like, it's cool when they show up, don't get me wrong, but it's not them that's interesting. It's not them that make me want to watch it. It's not the fact that Daenerys has dragons that makes me like her. It's the characters and the situations of the politics that they are put in that makes the show absolutely fascinating and addictive. And one thing I hear about it a lot is, it's just a soap opera. And I think there's a very interesting line between political drama and melodrama.
Oh, totally.
In that melodrama is just drama for the sake of drama, where a character will do one thing to cause drama and the next week do something that is completely on the opposite side just to cause more drama.
Yeah.
Whereas with something like Game of Thrones or House of Cards even, is the characters have clear motivations and desires, and they're manipulating the situations that they are in order to meet those desires.
Yeah.
And that inevitably causes a lot of upheaval and drama, but it's more natural.
It's not really. It's more like intrigue than drama.
Yeah, I think that's why it's called political intrigue, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to get that out, because I really do love Game of Thrones. The other two that I wanted to talk about more was House of Cards and The West Wing, and since I'm pretty sure I'm the only one here who's seen The West Wing, I'll make my points rather brief. It does a lot of the same things that House of Cards does, just in a more, positive light, I suppose. It has a good person, not a Sith Lord, be the president, for one.
Aww. But Sith Lords are always so much more interesting.
I do question how good an Emperor of the Galaxy Palpatine was.
Well,
just how did the day-to-day go for him before the fucking rebellion? And
blow
everything
up
was
a planet. But sir, they're our economic partners. Blow up the planet, I say! They're our trade partners. I said do it now, Veda. Choke. force-choke the bastard. Yes, my master. But we'll lose money. I don't care. I did not go through
He's
70.
just this bored old man. That's just what he does for fun. He just sits at his Death Star and blows up planets for fun.
Yeah, because like I pretended to be a friendly old man for more than 25 years. Now that Bindu Gindu motherfucker burnt my face, I can be as evil as I want to be.
Anyway, no, but like one of the things I really like about West Wing is it's been going on a lot longer than House of Cards, but House of Cards is doing some of the same tricks. It'll take these like contingency plans that are in, is it the Constitution? That are in, you know, the laws of Congress and the laws of the White House and stuff as far as succession goes. And I said this earlier, but so toward the end of season 4, the vice president resigns because of a sex scandal. All right, and then at the very end of season 4, the president's youngest daughter, who's like 19, is kidnapped. And he doesn't trust himself to make any kind of decisions while she's kidnapped because he's like, you know, he's a parent and he's just so fucking out of it. He's only thinking about one thing. He can't trust himself to make any decisions. So he relinquishes the power of the presidency temporarily. And the thing is, in the, you know, bylaws, whatever it is, if the president gives up power and the vice president cannot take power for whatever reason, then the power goes to the Speaker of the House. But in American politics, more often than not, the Speaker of the House hasn't been or isn't in the same party as the presidency. So, alright, hold on. Martin Sheen gives up the presidency, and guess who becomes president for like the first 3 or 4 episodes of season 5? Fucking John Goodman. And it's just awesome. And like, so he's this temporary president, and like there's some of the bigger questions that they just kind of like throw to the side. They have one of these characters just kind of say offhandedly, and one of them was, wait, does he get his own presidential library? Even though he's only president for like 2 weeks. It's one of those weird little
fucking suck to be like, I was president for like 2 weeks, you know?
Well, like, does he get his own presidential portrait? If they're fucking going through, like, the, in the back of my encyclopedia that I have here at the house, it's severely out of date now because it puts George H.W. Bush as the current president, but, they have every single president and vice presidents that served as president for any substantial amount of time. They have their picture in order, and so you got to wonder, if this were that universe, would John Goodman be there, or what? It's just a weird thing.
No. Through the array of like photos, there'll be just like a little tiny one between like 2 big ones.
Yeah, like, it's just one of those weird things. Does he get his own presidential portrait? Because there's this, I think it's in the White House, where there's portraits of all the presidents.
Now he gets like a little, like a picture frame taken, like, and he's just like, in a little picture frame hanging on the wall.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those interesting things, and I think West Wing does a really good job of little stuff like that, and just seeing the implications of it. But let's go ahead and move on to House of Cards, since I feel like Steve's probably itching to talk about that, too.
Yeah, well, I love House of Cards. I think House of Cards is fantastic. Have any of you watched the original British show? Because I haven't, I was wondering.
I have not, and like I was very, very tempted to after finishing the first season, because I finished that within like 2 days after it was out. And I was very tempted to, but since I had a feeling that they were going to make more, I didn't want to be spoiled, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I was talking to Alex, a beer enthusiast, and he said if you've seen the British, then you're going to see every single plot twist coming up the first 2 seasons of House of Cards, the American version, and I don't want that, so, you know.
Yep, same here. I was just like, I had a feeling that there was going to be more to it than this, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. I gotta hold off and just wait for him to make season 2, and I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
Because every single twist and turn is just fucking awesome.
It's a great show. There's this notion that American government's filled with corruption, and that's not completely true because there's a very fine line between corruption and influence. And the really interesting thing about House of Cards, speaking for the American version, is that it walks that line and crosses it and jumps back and forth with it multiple times, and it really makes you wonder, even if you're doing a good thing, how far away are you from being corrupt?
Uh-huh. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about the show is just, it's actually, when Season 2 went up, Netflix had, I think, a 20 to 30% increase in subscribers in China. Because for some reason, the Chinese are fascinated by, like, over-the-top portrayals of American political intrigue.
They're doing their research.
Yeah, I guess so. Which is interesting because there's this big Chinese subplot in House of Cards Season 2.
Which I think is one of the more fairly realistic plots in that show.
Yeah. And, like, don't get me wrong, like, it's a little... Spoilers, everybody. It's a little much when he straight up kills 2 people, and gets to be president. And, like, they make a really interesting point with it, though, is the more power he got, the more he could do, because just no one would believe it, you know? Like, no one would believe, oh, the president pushed, the future president pushed a woman in front of a train. Okay, crazy man.
That kind of weirdly makes sense in a like, it's so great when it seems like it'd be like, of course the guy pushed her, but it's like the president pushed her. When it's somebody of power and notoriety, it somehow seems far-fetched, doesn't it? Like, oh, yeah, George Clooney punched a woman in the face until her face looked like mush. Oh, sure, Milan. It's not, you know.
I saw it happen in front of my house.
Funny you should say that, actually. George Clooney is a fucked up motherfucker. I mean, like, he's all like, let's bury this hobo, I'm like, no, George, do you have any acid? We can dissolve his body in the bathtub. And it's like, fuck you, I'm a celeb. Well, actually, yeah, he did have a lot of that.
We gotta talk about Breaking Bad, too, then. You just made me think.
No. You know what I love about, I haven't watched House of Cards, but I love the fact that they're like, the main villain is just hysterical to me, because like, he was described to me as a southern gentleman who breaks the fourth wall all the time. He's like,
huh. See, I don't consider it breaking the fourth wall when you're doing narration. Breaking the fourth wall has to be more deliberate than that.
Yeah, he's like, I did it for the power. I want
like, that's the thing is he doesn't
67 times in the throat while talking to you fine people, and I did it for the power.
See, like, here's the thing is okay. Here's the thing is that this show, season 1, episode 1 opens with a dog getting hit by a car, but it's still alive. And he sees it whimpering on the street and tells, like, the only guy that's out there with him to go, like, call the police or whatever. And the dog's whimpering, and he's just looking at the camera, and he goes, there are 2 kinds of pain in this world. Useless pain and useful pain. Or something like that. And he goes through this whole fucking monologue. He goes, I don't have any patience for useless things. And he just snaps the dog's neck. And you don't see the dog. You just see it, like, him petting something underneath the frame. And it's still very effective. And the thing is, that isn't breaking the fourth wall to me. Breaking the fourth wall means you have to acknowledge that what you're doing is not fact. There's a difference between narration and breaking the fourth wall, you know? You have to acknowledge that, hey, I'm in a movie, or a comic book, or a television show, or I'm on camera right now.
Well, he kind of does that, like, hey, I'm on camera, I'm going to talk to the viewer.
No, he just talked, like, it's his inner monologue, just as if he's talking to someone else.
You know what would be awesome? If, like, he just has that magic... what if he just has that power? He just fucking... Like, what if he's just insane, and he's, like, just starts talking, like, narrating to an audience that's not there, and the people are just looking at him saying, like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Who's he talking to?
Well, I don't think he'd become president.
Well, if you go to the first episode of Season 2... he doesn't address the audience for the whole episode, and then you get to the very end, and he says, did you think I forgot about you? And in a way, he is acknowledging the fact of how this episode is going. And breaking the fourth wall, just kind of by definition, is acknowledging that you do have an audience. But the part where the ambiguity comes in with that is there's a part of it, I think it's late season 2, where he's in a church. And you can't really tell if all of this has been him kind of like talking to God, to talking to himself to figure out if he's justifying these things, or if he's talking to the audience.
Yeah, I don't think it's... I don't count it as breaking the fourth wall unless you acknowledge that you're in the thing that you're in.
Okay.
Like, I did some fourth wall breaks in Epic Quest, and, we straight up...
Plug.
Yeah, plug a movie that's 3 years old. God forbid I talk about my own personal experience with fiction that we're actually talking about.
Yeah, how dare you monster.
I did a couple fourth wall breaks in Epic Quest and years earlier in Adventure to Georgetown, and they're really just silly gags, but they acknowledge that we're in a movie, and I think you have to acknowledge that you're not necessarily that you have an audience, but that you're actually in something, and that these events are not supposed to be taken as reality, but as fiction.
Cool.
It might be a little bit more of like a soliloquy or an aside or that kind of area.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
I think there's Watch Mojo did a list of top 10 fourth wall breaks, and 2 or 3 of them were narration scenes, and I don't think that counts. Because that's just a storytelling device to me.
Well, I guess it all depends how it's used.
Okay, anyway, but more on House of Cards. I do think it's one of the most brilliant shows, and I'm so glad Netflix decided to launch their original stuff with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. So what else? Oh, Breaking Bad.
I don't watch Breaking Bad.
Do you do anything besides watch superhero shows and read comic books?
I rub an old man's feet sometimes.
Well, at least your hands are getting exercise.
Yeah.
That's
disturbing question, and I don't know if I want to think about this, but this is so fucking lowbrow. But Milan, do you wash your hands between rubbing your dad's feet and masturbating?
Yes, you fucking gross bastard. No, I fucking touch an 85-year-old cunt's feet and then touch my dick afterward without going, oh, okay, they stink and they have slime on them. There's no germs. How fucking retarded do you think I am? You just ruined my high. I'm so mad. Thanks. I'm now fucking... You just pissed me off to sobriety, motherfucker.
So Breaking Bad.
I had a feeling I'd get that kind of reaction out of you, Milan. Thank you. See, I'm wondering if you're getting so mad because, you just realized that's something you're not supposed to do and you're trying to, cover, or...
Motherfucker, I'll literally fucking work for a month, get a fucking ticket to wherever the fuck you live, and hurt you with my hands. And...
Okay,
yeah.
Anyway, Breaking Bad. Yeah. This really does go to what you were talking about earlier, Steve, with the fact that you don't need government to have politics.
Right.
And just some of the stuff is... I'm not sure at what point Breaking Bad got to be a little too much. But I think it has something to do with the guy whose, uncle or whatever it was, a Nazi. Because... don't get me wrong, I love Breaking Bad, but I thought there were a little bit too many conveniences to cause very big problems for Walter White. And the one that stands out the most to me, just because I've seen the last season most recently. So the beginning of the final season, or maybe even the fourth season, they start this thing where they're cooking in, tented houses and stuff. And they got that gig because the guys that originally tented the houses were, thieves. They'd, steal stuff from the house after they put up the tent and blah, blah, blah. And so this was a way for them to make money without criminal prosecution.
Well, I
but
mean,
then
don't
one
you
of the
think that's
kids
kind of the point of the show, though?
Well, hold on, let me just... But one of the kids that was apparently working for this very low-end, robbery operation just happened to have an uncle with these huge prison Aryan Nation connections. And it just, I don't know, it just seemed really convenient to me. But what were you going to say, Steve? I just wanted to get that point out there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the point of the show, though, right? Is that there are choices, and certain choices get blown out of proportion, and a lot of times it is just that there's a karma system, and you're going to pay for your actions regardless of how or where it comes from. Mm-hmm. And Walter White kind of acknowledges that all at the end of the series. So I know they're conveniences, but I feel like it's the point. Like you wouldn't penalize a pulp from the 40s for being campy.
No.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like I do like Breaking Bad, but I feel like it gets maybe a little too much credit.
Yeah. But
if you're willing to admit their conveniences, I'm not going to push the points beyond that. I just think that that's something that needs to be acknowledged, is that it's not perfect.
Yeah,
it kind of gets touted as
conveniences. I don't see them as a problem.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's nothing is perfect.
No, fair enough. I think I still love the show, but I think it gets a little bit more credit than it deserves as far as, it's groundbreaking television storytelling. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Good character stuff. Some of the plots are a bit messy. But, the whole drug structure of Breaking Bad is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're kind of heading into underground politics. I mean, mainstream politics are just like mayors and, judges and whatever. But underground politics, you're really going to have to go into the mob stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I like, in Breaking Bad, I love the Gustavo. And side note, I really want some fucking Los Polos chicken, because that shit sounded delicious. But no, I really liked the whole operation that he had and his connection to the cartels and stuff. That was absolutely... Hello?
That was
Okay, that Milan dropped for some reason, but you're still here.
Oh.
It's fucking laptop. Sorry, I have Windows 8 and just keeps making pop-up windows come up every time I try to use the fucking trackpad. No, but I liked what they did with Gustavo and the cartels and the way he was running his meth empire and stuff. I thought, Walter White was... The thing is, what Walter White needed is the next season's Walter White to come in and tell him how to do shit. Because everything went wrong for the guy in the last season, and he'd figure it out by the next season, but it's just way too late because then he'd cause another problem.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it gets into, real-life areas, just learning your lesson far too late in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I guess back to the politics of that, that whole drug empire, because, like I mentioned before that earlier, the definition of politics, where it's who gets what, when and how. And that's exactly what some of the stuff with Fring and his drug empire and Walter starting his own empire was. The way they divide it up, so who gets how much money, why they get that much money, when they get it, that kind of... It's really organizational, and moving up or changing or getting buyers or sellers or distributors or whatever was all still kind of fitting into the process, and it was building its network.
Yeah, I thought that was really fascinating. I thought it was interesting that they brought in that even Gus wasn't the top guy, with that whole thing that went down with the cartel. That was really fascinating, too.
Yeah.
Just the intricacies of it made it really interesting. The intricacies made it interesting. Let's not be redundant, Ian. The intricacies of everything made the show very, very fascinating to watch and keep up with.
Yeah. The Sopranos. I'm watching that. I'm like halfway through season 2 now, and it's definitely in that vein.
Okay, see, I haven't seen any of that. I was too young for it when it came on, and I just don't have access to it now.
Well, it's on Amazon Prime right now, free to watch if you have Prime, and it's fantastic. But
I don't have Amazon, so.
Yeah, well, fair enough. If you do ever get a chance to watch it, though, I'd highly recommend it because the mob mentality is inherently kind of political.
Oh, definitely. I mean, everything. It's a very monarch-like system,
right? And they play with that. But what makes it interesting is, like, thinking of it from a political standpoint, and even if you're not, what you're getting is you're getting people that have real-world problems despite their exaggerated career. And all the drama comes from really human things, but it all comes from scenarios that are really political or really mob-like, of turf wars and who's the boss and just who the lines of succession and things like that. But it's still things like the stress that comes with success and raising your children and things like that.
Yeah, and I think American Gangster, the Denzel Washington movie, balanced that really well too.
I've not.
You will not believe what that motherfucker dared to do. You know what he fucking did? Do you know what that old, fat, fucking wrinkly old pass of fucking dog shit did?
Denzel Washington isn't dog shit.
No. My fucking father, he fucking went to the electricity socket and literally turned off the power to the entire fucking apartment out of spite for me. The bastard. Old bastard. Oh my god. He is like a fucking jealous child. He's like, why don't you fucking, I hate you. You're gonna get kicked out. You don't look after me. You're asleep, you old prick. Sleep. You were asleep 2 seconds ago. Let me talk to my friends. Do the laundry. I'll do it after. Dude, he turns off the fucking thing. You fucking old bastard. I'm gonna, I'm so mad at him right now.
Okay, anyway, you were saying, Steve?
I think I lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's right. I was talking about American Gangster.
Right, there we go.
No, American Gangster did a lot of that, too. You just saw this very, not low level, but definitely not, major kingpin and African-American man, too. So it's like he was never going to become a major player in the entire city. He was just meant to, all right, fine, you're the successor to the guy that has, like, this neighborhood. Then we'll just leave the blacks as the blacks. Is basically the way all the other crime lords in the city looked at him. And I guess this is kind of a weird thing to go for in a video about fictional politics, since this is a true story. But he goes over to Vietnam during the war, and he arranges to have blue magic is heroin, I think, imported in the coffins of soldiers.
Wow.
Being sent back. Yeah, being sent back, and then that's how he builds his empire and becomes richer than every other crime boss in I want to say New York, but I might be wrong.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and it's really fast.
Wasn't he the first guy to actually, really take full advantage of the drug trade? Or was it?
I think so.
Huh.
But it was just a really fascinating story, and the way in which Denzel Washington portrays him. There's this great scene with Denzel Washington and Idris Elba before Elba had really gotten very popular. They're in the street, and at the time Elba was kind of like an up and comer, and he was like just basically doing what some people were in Breaking Bad, where he had the low level product, but he was just coloring it blue. Which I wonder how much of Breaking Bad was based on this, but anyway, keeping that in mind with the blue thing. But no, so Idris Elba's there, and he's like, they'd known each other, but he was ripping off of his product basically, and he's like, they're sitting there in the middle of a public street, and Denzel goes, "You're gonna stop making this stuff, and you're gonna start paying me for the product so that you can distribute it." It's like, no, I'm not. What are you gonna do? Shoot me in the middle of the street? And Denzel pulls out a gun in the middle broad daylight and shoots the guy in the head.
That's Denzel!
No one fucking turns around or anything.
I guess the cool fact begins on that is like, that's power you can't buy. That's the power of fear.
Exactly.
So, wait. So, is this... Did he start the whole nobody talking in a black neighborhood type of thing?
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah. Yeah, Denzel really plays some really fucking famous roles.
I think we'd be remiss if we, at least for a minute, didn't bring up 24.
Which is something I've never watched. It's just one of those things, I was too young when it started to get into.
You're not missing much.
Republican Captain America, but it's pro-torture.
Nah, I think it's more simplistic than that.
Oh.
Oh, damn.
I mean, the thing about that show, the thing about that show is it's a guilty pleasure. There's a lot wrong with it. Of course, 24 there's a lot wrong with it. 24 Live Another Day, which me and Captain Logan have been reviewing, is actually pretty fantastic. But back to the point at hand. I only want to mention 24 real quick because it's such a reactive show. Because we had 9/11, and all of the politics of that show are directly influenced by the policies of the administration that took into effect after 9/11. So you're seeing people tortured. You're seeing like absolutism. You're seeing consequentialism all in action, and if you don't keep that mindset of immediately after 9/11 there, it's kind of hard to swallow, and even then it's hard to swallow.
Yeah, it's kind of like once a guy gets his like fucking burnt by a piece of metal, you know it's a little much when you see the American flag slowly waving in the wind and the national anthem playing. Oh wait, that's the French one. Anyway, but you know what that number is all about. Like I saw a Bill O'Reilly clip once on YouTube, and he tried to justify torture. He said like, yeah, what if there's a situation when the bomb is gonna blow up and you have the guy right there, and like the only way you can extract information is by torture. Like, dude, you just described the fucking 24 episode.
Well, no, that's exactly what a 24 episode is. A 24 episode is you're in an impossible situation, and the only way out is torture because people don't think logically.
It just seems like torture's been... I guess the problem with that is I never really get a torture scene because it's just... it's one of those things where once you know the facts, it's just the worst thing to possibly do. It just kills all the drama because... in real life, if someone is being tortured, they will tell you anything to make it stop. So, like, you have these things where, like, oh, this guy we can't break him when we're torturing him. It's like, no, that's completely pointless because the people that actually know information will just fucking lie to you to make the torture stop. So it doesn't work, so I never really get into it when it comes to torture being shown in drama.
And like, there is such a simple way to get information by torture. Everyone goes for the fingers. So chop up a finger, pull off a fucking fingernail with some pliers, break a teeth, punch a guy in the face. That's all weak sauce. That's when you want to have a little bit of fun, when you're gonna soften a guy up. If you really want to get the information straight away, without any fucking bother, what you gotta do, my friend, is you gotta take a car battery and 2 pliers, the ones you use to connect to your car. Basically, you get that, right? And you take you strap a man, you take off his pants, and you carve a hole in the
we know
bottom
where
of
this
the
is
chair.
Going.
And then
we know where this is going. We know where this is going.
Okay.
We don't have to go there.
Okay. I'm just telling you what my uncle told me at age 12.
I guess just another thing I had to say there about torture. Shit, I'm starting to lose my train of thought as we speak.
That tends to happen.
That happens a lot on this show.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, I know where I was going. I remember my point. The thing about showing your protagonist torturing somebody for the well-being of others is more often than not, like not saying I condone torture, not saying I don't, but just more often than not from a character place, you're portraying them as a hypocrite. Because, like, take Taken, for example. Take Taken. But with Taken...
alliteration.
But if you take Taken, you're torturing a guy because he wants his daughter back. Now, would he be okay if, to save the world, they had to torture his daughter? Well, no, he wouldn't. Would Jack Bauer be okay if you had to torture his family to get fish? Well, no, he wouldn't. As long as this main character gets what they want, torture is okay, and the moment they don't, torture is not. And the problem with a lot of politics in fiction is that you have to be politically correct. Like, you have to love your family, you have to be a good Christian, and stuff like that, but you can't ever say it out loud. So you're running into a lot of these issues of being hypocritical and showing characters that aren't completely well-rounded simply because you want to play both sides of a point you can't possibly play up.
I always saw torture in those types of films as an element of introducing moral grayness to your character. If it was like, hey, we got a superhero, oh fuck, he just fucking pulled the guy's tooth out with a fucking pair of pliers. He's not that good. You know,
if he doesn't do that to people he cares about, then what is he really doing?
Well,
see, here's what I want to make before it leaves my mind here. You mentioned Taken, and I think for the most part I agree with you, but I think there's a very big difference between Taken and, forgive me for assuming here, and 24. In that in Taken, he gave the guy a chance to have this specific thing not happen. He gave him more than fair warning. You know, there's the most badass phone call ever, right? And he tells him, I'm going to find you and kill you. And you could make the argument, well, the guy didn't think he was serious. The guy thought he was just trying to be intimidating. But the dude knew that consequences could come if he continued in this course of action, and he just goaded him on anyway. Whereas in 24... the guy's doing a bad thing, I agree, but I don't think that they portray them as fully aware of the means to which Jack Bauer will go.
You know,
I think they do.
Okay.
Yeah, like in 24, there's always that really cliched scene of, you know what I'm capable of, and do you really want to go down this road? And it's like, I won't break, and then they break.
Yeah.
So. You know, it's almost like I kept expecting this whole, like, it's almost, you know, like how that line in the TV show, everyone yells, like, we're doing the Hulk transformation during the, Lou Ferrigno Hulk TV show, you don't want to get me angry, and the family goes, you don't want to get me angry, like, all the family joins in, but with 24, all the Republican families would go, like, you know what I'm capable of, torture, yay. Family bonding through torture. But, with 24, I always thought, like, as long as the face is brown, rhyming...
That's one of my favorite... That's one of my favorite jokes is, well, they're not really people because they're brown.
Yeah.
It immediately gets at whatever is wrong with a thing. But when it comes down to, like, anything with bad things happen to people, most of the time they're brown people, so it's okay. You're just supposed to accept it.
Which, by the way, 24 is very insulting in some most respects, but I won't get into that here.
Okay.
24 is for fascists.
What I think,
there's a lot of good 24, but there's also just too much bad. Like, Season 5 24 is fantastic, and 24 Live Another Day, from what I've seen so far, because it's not all done yet, is fantastic. So,
all right, let me throw this one out here. I'd say 24, even though you say that there's a lot of bad, Steve, I'd say 24 is at least overall good. But I think that a show like Scandal is absolute shit. Does anyone want to go at me with this one?
I was in my political science class, and a girl asked the professor in the middle of a lecture, you should watch Scandal. And from then on, I just didn't want to watch it.
What's Scandal?
It's one of those Shonda Rhimes shows. That's the lady that's famous, or infamous rather, for doing that shit like Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice, and now I'm pretty sure she's got another one called Black Box. And, like, I mean, I can't fault her because the characters are at least interesting in and of themselves, for the most part when they first start off. Like, I watched the pilot of Black Box just because the premise did catch my eye, and it was a neurosurgeon that had bipolar personality disorder. So it's fascinating in and of itself, but I knew exactly what was going to happen as the drama would continue to escalate to the point where it's just completely ridiculous. And, like, that's definitely the case in Grey's Anatomy, where, you know, these are the same doctors whose hospital has had not only one bomb attack, but a mass shooting, and they've also been in a plane crash, and I'm pretty sure there was a tornado at some point. It's like, that's a really bad hospital to go to. But with Scandal, it's even more ridiculous because there's a secret organization that has control over the presidency, and the protagonist's father was the leader of that organization for a while, and her mother's an international terrorist, and the president used to be a puppet of this organization back when he was in the military. And it's just all such crap, and it gets to the point where it's too ridiculous to be dramatic. And it's one of those things where I just end up watching it because my mom gets addicted to this crap, and she doesn't want to acknowledge that it's awful.
Funny enough, a little thing about politics. Not exactly fictional politics, but apparently, my mom is currently... She just texted me and said that she's at this rally. She and a bunch of other middle-aged women of Russian descent are just waving Russian flags in front of the Australian news station and just screaming, "You're lying about, you know, Russia being the bad guy in the, you know, Ukraine situation. It's just American troops dressed up in Ukrainian uniforms opening fire on civilians."
What?
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what's happening.
Yes, apparently. Like,
Wait, what?
Milan's mother... See, as you well know, Milan has delusions about the world, and his mother has them too. She just doesn't... Hers just aren't as entertaining on their own, so she has to indulge them.
They're not delusions. She is not the only one. She and the rest of, like, everyone who is middle-aged and Russian and an immigrant thinks that. Serbian and Russian, like, my father is like, he just hates America because they, you know, carpet bombed his homeland. And, you know, it's everyone, like, middle-aged Russian folks are, weirdly enough, really patriotic. Like, for some reason right now. I mean, it's probably some sort of latent, like, brain control or something. Because before... because I don't remember my mom being fucking patriotic. She's like, "Oh, fucking Russia, it's too cold. The fucking mafia is asking us for money. Let's go to fucking Australia." And now she's like, she never looked back. Never looked back.
So why Australia? Like, all right. Here's a good connection to make. Something that I'm surprised we barely touched on it. I think Steve's the only one that brought it up, but we didn't talk about any Cold War politics stuff. We didn't talk about any Cold War stuff,
Which we should address, I think.
I think my favorite Cold War movie is still Dr. Strangelove, but I'll go ahead and talk about instead the I guess you could call it the serious version of Dr. Strangelove, which makes it sound bad, but it is actually a really good movie called Failsafe. That's all about the you know, nuclear the stupidity of a nuclear war and fail-safes and stuff like that.
Mutually assured destruction and all that.
Yeah. See, all right, spoilers, but so a very similar situation as that in Doctor Strangelove takes place, where a plane carrying a nuclear bomb gets the wrong orders to go ahead and go bomb Russia, and that's going to start a nuclear war and everything, and they're trying the whole movie to stop the plane or something. They're contacting the Russians, telling them to shoot down the plane, trying to give them, you know, coordinates, but it keeps getting away. And so the president does this thing, and I think it's probably the best version of a logical way to make a nuclear disaster fair. So that he sends an aide to Moscow and gets him on the phone, and he sends an aide to New York and gets him on the phone, and he and the Russian leader are all on the phone in a group call. And he says, okay, in a couple minutes we're going to hear his phone melt. And that's how we'll know that the bomb has been dropped on Moscow. And the Russian leader goes, you think one American life will make this okay? He goes, no. Because on the other end of this line is this man, and he's in New York City. And I'm going to give the order for a bomb to be dropped on New York after the one in Moscow detonates. And we're going to hear his phone melt. And that's how we're going to stop a nuclear war from breaking out. And it's just one of the most terrifyingly pragmatic things I've ever seen. It's the only, logical way that a nuclear war could end.
But why New York? But fucking New York rocks. Just drop it on, fucking Texas or something.
No, but that's the whole point. Is then there's this whole subplot about the First Lady being in New York at the time too. So it was just it's a very good movie though, and it deals with all the same things that Dr. Strangelove deals with, just in a more serious way. But yeah, it's just I love that Russian and American Cold War politics thing. It's one of the best settings for a lot of the best political intrigue we've gotten over the years. I mean, Tom Clancy made a career out of it.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, with the Cold War...
what's interesting about...
Sorry, before I move on. Go ahead, Steve, it's okay.
Oh, you sure?
Actually, you know what, I'm kind of still kind of high. I might hit a pothole and forget. Essentially, it's weird that the whole Cold War situation... Pothole. Funny enough, the whole, Cold War situation has become far enough away that we can have, hey, fun, X-Men superhero movies about it. But still, not, we can't do, a superhero movie about fucking 9/11. Fucking the X-Men go back in time and try to stop 9/11. It's still far too fucking recent. It's you can't fucking do that. Maybe 50 years in the future you can have that happen, but it's still sure, thermonuclear annihilation at the time was a little bit too much of a touchy subject, but now it's it's all...
I don't know. I mean, Dr. Strangelove made fun of thermonuclear annihilation, and people laughed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... Some of the best movies about the Cold War were made during the Cold War.
Oh, I suppose so. I don't know. I guess it's if a bomb actually hit. But,
the hesitation with 9/11, at least from what I think, is that a lot of our fiction takes place in that general area, or is written by or created by people who are from that area. So it's going to be a touchy subject for a while, but I guarantee 10, 15 years we're going to have some more fiction about 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to a website called www.wikipedia.com, which is basically just a website for, really bad jokes, and I don't mean not funny jokes, I mean jokes about awful things. If you have the stomach for it, and obviously I do, there are a lot of things about 9/11, and you can tell it's a primarily British website because of that. Because there's very the spelling gives it away too, but it's a very British website, and so you just get a lot of jokes about 9/11 occasionally, it's interesting to read those as an American and think, okay, I guess that this is gonna be kind of a thing around the world, but it's just not going to hit the shore yet.
Yeah, funny thing about 9/11. I was a little kid when I first saw that on the. I was looking for cartoons. It was midday, and I saw it was splash, next channel, and then I saw buildings falling. What the hell was that? We gotta go around. I saw it. I'm oh, is that New York? Mama, somebody's attacking America, and she's walks in. At first she's fuck 'em, good. But no, it's New York. She's oh, okay. She walks in, she sees the towers fall, and she's ha! Fuck 'em! Spits on the screen and goes back to cooking. I'm Mom, why'd you do that? don't feel sorry for the Americans. I was there when they bombed Bosnia. I had to run with your father. 2 buildings, I hope more fall down. I'm like, what happened in Bosnia? Like, don't ask. Fucking Americans. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a British comedian kind of said this once, and it was, I'm not, denigrating, like, all the lives lost during 9/11, awful, families have my sympathies and all that stuff, but, I mean, there's one British comedian who made this joke. Well, it's more of a Scottish comedian, or an Irish one, I don't know. One of those fucking people. He essentially said, like, oh, the fucking Americans, they had, like, an afternoon of, their freedom being taken away, now they're blowing up half the fucking world. Jesus Christ, Mary and Joseph.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I don't know where you're going with that one, but okay.
I'm fucking stoned. I don't give a I don't give a damn.
No, but I think that the 9/11 thing, I mean, we are touching on it and we're not. Like, people keep trying to make the point, all these superhero movies now, they're just referencing 9/11. Like, and isn't it just that we actually know what happens when a skyscraper falls down now? Is it really a reference to 9/11 to show, what really happens?
The problem with 9/11 is that it's still so close. Like, it's not far enough in the future for us to think about it in retrospect or what it really means, or at least on a grander scale. So we're kind of running around dodging it and talking about it at the same time. And we keep saying superhero films, or other people keep saying superhero films are talking about it, and they're not. And it's only because it's still fresh enough in our minds. Because if you really want to think about it, yeah, some of the ramifications of that are in superhero films, but the ramifications of 9/11 haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, there's still policies being influenced by that action. So it's not easy to talk about something because it's not in all terms over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, in my mind, you have to wait a generation between events before you can really call it history.
Yeah, like
I'd
say at least 50 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 50 years might be a little much, because, I mean, the Cold War only ended when I was born, so,
Yeah.
It's just 50, like, we can talk about the Cold War as history now, even though, Putin's kind of putting it back into effect one step at a time.
Yeah, but instead of communism, he wants to create the Holy Russian Empire, go completely on the other end of the spectrum. Everyone's Christian, and the fags deserve death in a pit. And if you survive the bullets...
Anyway.
Jesus.
Can't let Milan rant about Russia, otherwise it goes so off track, because we're almost done here. I just wanted to make sure we got past the whole 9/11 thing.
Yeah.
Back to Scandal, which is once again awful because it's melodrama, but there's one other thing I wanted to mention about it. So, like, there's this character in the first season that, like, gets a job with this department that, handles these political gaffes and tries to, make them shiny. It's basically like a medical show, but with politics, is the best way to describe it.
Oh, wow, that's, like, what a stretch for that female person who writes the stuff.
No, but, so there's this character that joins the team to, clean up these political messes in the first season, and then, like, I don't really watch it, but I catch clips of it. And now she's, like, this super assassin that works for the government, and, like,
what?
She's having sex with another super assassin that had joined the team.
Of course
and I'm just like, what is going on here?
Something awesome. But, it's one more thing about the whole 9/11 depicted in comics.
No, let's not do one more thing.
It's not, it's just, like, it's funny enough, during, like, not 2 years after the fact, a comic book by the name of Ex Machina, or Ex Machina.
Ex Machina or Do Ex Machina?
Do Ex Machina, I think it is.
Okay.
Or Ex Machina or something like that. I don't know how it's pronounced. But it's essentially a superhero saves one of the towers and becomes mayor of New York. And it's essentially the West Wing, but, New York politics and a lot of weird superhero stuff thrown in. But it's, like, hyper-realistic and shit.
See, that's one of those things that, like, alright, here's a good way to kind of wrap up, because we really did start talking about superheroes, and I think this is a good place to wrap after we get the thoughts out on this. So, there was this whole thing that happened after 9/11 about why aren't the superheroes helping us fight these enemies? Like, why aren't the superheroes fighting Al-Qaeda and stuff in the comics like they did back with the Nazis? And it's just because comics had moved on by that point, and it wasn't about, like, this strict, propaganda machine anymore.
Yeah.
It was really meant to be more of a thing, and honestly, it would have been, like what you just described, Milan, it's kind of offensive in a way.
Yeah.
Because you don't want superheroes to solve real-world problems,
Yeah, that's why it's kind of weird, because you're right, it's also currently it's in bad taste, obviously, but also it's just kind of, with Nazis it's easy, because, and of course back then comics were essentially, propaganda machines, like, as long as they punch Hitler in the face and say, buy war bonds, that's fine. But nowadays it's just like, it's not a big, huge, mechanized enemy with black, awesome uniforms and literal skulls on their hats. It's a bunch of fucking...
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They're not...
How did the Nazis not know they were the bad guys? I mean, really?
Yeah. I mean, but, like, instead you have, like, it was more of a gray area. And, like, I'm sure some people wanted to see the old, let's punch old brownie face, let's have Captain America punch old son of Bin Laden in the face and whatever, like he did with Hitler. And I'm like, that would, sure, but that's like superheroes of, they've become a genuine literary form now. It's not like propaganda back anymore.
Well, a lot of that, like, at least with Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, a lot of that would be in poor taste.
And I think
we had like Pearl Harbor, and we got into World War II, we got superhero propaganda. A lot of that propaganda started before anything happened. Like, Captain America was around and had a story about Pearl Harbor before Pearl Harbor happened, and it's just an extension of what was going on. With something like that, more than being like offensive to Muslims who didn't do that, it'd be offensive to people that lost their lives in 9/11 and didn't agree with how it was handled.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And
also, like, Go ahead. Sorry. Hello?
Hello?
Steve, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I was just saying, like, it would be offensive to the people that lost their lives there, and there's a lot of people that don't agree with how that whole situation was handled. And like you said earlier, with superheroes shouldn't necessarily tell us how to solve our problems, but they, in a lot of ways, they're there to tell us how we should act in certain situations. And the general consensus, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever, the general consensus is that 9/11 and the war, none of that was handled properly. So if a superhero was going to go out and punch Osama bin Laden, just on a natural, logical, political scale, that wasn't the right thing to do at the time, and to make our characters do that would be to put them out of character in a way. It wouldn't be to punch out Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
One more thing. It's so weird because also back in the day, the whole racial angle was kind of lapsed. I mean, Captain America, like Superman, literally said, "Hey kids, slap a Jap for America." Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But, and like, if you have, fucking Superman or Captain America beating up fucking Muslims, then, that might, some people might say that's, in bad taste, but also that might incite even more racial hatred and, literal murder of Muslim, American citizens than there already was. I mean, even now, people are like, oh, there's a vaguely brown person in the White House. He's a Muslim. And whatever. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like,
God, that is the most ridiculous thing.
Everyone, like, I'm just gonna be rather, I'm gonna be extraordinarily, I'm fucking Russian, but if you believe that Obama is a fucking secret Muslim spy, you are a fucking idiot. And you should feel bad for your idiocy. And,
okay, anyway, no, back to the comic thing, though. Like, I forget who made the point, but you can't have superheroes solve real-world problems, because if Hitler were, or not Hitler, like, if Osama bin Laden did what he did in a superhero universe, which it's still weird that Spider-Man comic came out. If that happened in a superhero universe, then Superman would just fucking pop over and grab him in 2 seconds, and it'd be done.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, they actually made a comic book literally when the whole, stuff in Europe was happening. Stalin, it was so early on that even fucking Stalin was allies with Hitler back then, that Superman literally flew overseas, grabbed Hitler and Stalin by the scruff of the fucking neck, flew them over to the UN and made them, stand there like pouty children. It was like, naughty boys, tap, tap, tap with the gadget.
Exactly. It's so fucking pointless. It's so insulting to take this real world problem and just have the superhero solve it in 2 seconds. Yeah. So you need to create a metaphor, because that's what fiction is for, that represents the problem.
You know what's something so fucking uncomfortably trippy? Around, the time of 9/11, you get all these comic books like The Dark Knight Strikes Again and a Superman issue where you have Superman or a plane of some sort flying to in one comic book it literally had the Twin Towers burning and it's like that. You get that really weird stuff with comic books and art and whatever, especially in comic books. It happens. It's this weird precognitive thing which is weird.
The newest Green Lantern of Earth was introduced in New 52, and that's the only reason that this is okay is because everything's brand new in New 52. The newest Green Lantern, in his origin issue, Simon Baz is his name, you see a drawn version of of a TV showing the footage of 9/11, and it says, X number of years ago. And then you see this kid grow up you see this kid who is Middle Eastern grow up in a post 9/11 America, and you just see the racism that he experiences his whole life. And he's by no means a perfect child or anything. He grows up and he's stealing cars for a living. And one day he steals a van. And he's driving around in it, and he hears beeping in the back seat, and he turns around and there's a bomb in it, and it's about to go off. And then suddenly cops are randomly chasing him. So he has to think on his feet, and he drives the car to a factory that he knows is abandoned and lets the van, jumps out of the van while it's on cruise, and it goes into the building and blows up this abandoned factory. And then he's taken to Guantanamo because obviously he's a terrorist.
Yeah. It's...
And then... Hold on. And then, as they're interrogating him, Green Lantern Ring shows up and takes him out of the room. One of the most fascinating superhero origins I've ever seen.
Yeah. You know what's weird? Literally before, 9/11 happened, before 2002.
2001.
Yeah, that's the one. I'm sorry, cultural differences, it's not as much of a big deal in the Russian-Serbian community. It's God got you back. Weirdly enough, before that point in time, Middle Eastern people were, seen as, hey, Al, how you doing? You're working at the Quickie Mart and whatever. The closest thing most Americans knew about the Middle East was that fun Aladdin movie that came out. And then, and look at that cute girl with the blue, 101 Nights, all that wonderful mystical stuff, mumbo jumbo. And then it's boom! Oh my God!
Aladdin,
it's
every time someone mentions Aladdin, this internet image pops into my head where it's Jasmine and her father talking, and her father just has a caption where he says, "Where is your burqa, you whore?"
Totally, but it's so weird because literally a day before 9/11. That fun, guy, that quirky, brownish guy who wore a turban in the Quickie, in the 7-Eleven or whatever, was just friendly, uncle, Middle Eastern name. And but straight after 9/11, you look at him he's smiling and waving. He's oh my God, he has a bomb. No, he hasn't. He's just saying hello.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think the day after 9/11, September 12th, rather, there was a man killed at a gas station that was just sitting there pumping his gas. Some American, good old boy, as you'd like to call him, just drove up and shot the guy because those Arabs had done those terrible things. And it just shows the level of ignorance in America, because the guy wasn't even, one, he wasn't even Arab, two, he wasn't Muslim.
He was a Hindu looking guy.
No, what's the other one? It's a really small religion that has nothing to do with any of the Judeo-Christian churches. It's one of those crazy things, but we're getting farther and farther away from the topic. So, is there any other fictional political system that we wanted to bring up here?
So, what you're saying is that he was brown enough to die?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
No? So, no other political things. Milan, what was the movie you wanted to talk about next week?
Yes. I would like to talk about, okay. Next movie's topic is, it's going to be a movie review of a Russian film by the name Tsar. It's about Ivan the Terrible and what a sick, crazy motherfucker he was.
Lovely.
Yay!
It's literally the depiction of Russians, greatest czar, my stepdad says that, and portrayed realistically by the Russians, by his own people. And I found a copy of it on YouTube, and it has really good subtitles. And I'm like,
wait, subtitles or dub?
It's subtitles.
Aw, son of a bitch.
I'm sure I can find one. I can find one in the dub.
I just fucking hate subtitles. It's so goddamn distracting.
I'll try to. I'm sure it's a pretty fucking popular film. I'm sure I can find one in in a good dub. If not, then
okay, please try to.
I will.
In any case, that should be interesting. Every time Milan picks a Russian movie, we just end up talking about Ukraine at this point. But anyway,
I highly doubt it. This movie has some fuck. When I first saw Game of Thrones, I'm like, what? Why is this a more colorful and cheerful movie of... literally, Game of Thrones is a more colorful, cheerful, and fanciful version of this movie.
Okay, anyway. Should be interesting. Steve, would you like to join us next week?
Yeah, possibly. It just depends if I get a chance to see the film.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get you a link. If you don't mind subtitles, then we can send you a YouTube link, so that shouldn't be a problem.
A cute little Russian princess gets killed by a fucking bear while waving a holy icon in its face.
Dude, spoilers. Spoilers for people that don't know Russian history.
Oh, trust me, that's not. It's gonna get some. You're gonna see some shit, son. Trust me.
All right, now that should be interesting, though. I don't know what's geeky about that, but whatever.
History and love of history and yada yada.
And yada yada.
Yada yada.
All right, so that should be fun. Steve, you can't say I'm the other philosopher here, so I'm going to let you go last to think of something really quick. But anyway, until next week, I'm the philosopher.
I am the madman.
Did you say Madman or Batman?
I said madman.
Oh, okay. Well, I am the Ghost Rider. How's that?
Oh, that's cool. All right. Everyone, thank you for listening. Until next time, we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing